Well, welcome to A Day in the Life. Over the past couple months here, we've been capturing the stories of individuals in our family and how they're kind of moving through this moment, how they're experiencing God in this moment. And we're really excited to have Christian here with us today. He's part of our communications team, and some of the blogs that you read and stories that you read are the result of his writing, which we really appreciate how he serves our community, our family in that way. And Christian, if you would just kind of give us a little bit of an introduction into what this has looked like for you. What has your journey been like as you've moved through this?
Absolutely, and thank you for having me on here. For me, it's been fairly interesting. It's been a little bit of a roller coaster between feeling normal, feeling kind of abnormal. I actually just got back to Hoboken last night. I've been staying at my parents' place out in Wyckoff, New Jersey, for the past like 3 to 4 months, basically since the quarantine started, and they graciously let me back into their home to hang out there for the time being while I work from home. I work in television production, so it's looked a little weird. Basically,
Yeah.
basically all of production around the world, but especially like New York and LA, have had to shut down and go on hiatuses. And my show was that I work for was no exception. I work for a talk show, so we're like in a studio, in an office. So we got sent home around mid-March. We did a live show with all the staff members in the audience, and then got sent home. We basically had a 2-week stint where we were off, not really sure what was going to happen. But then, fortunately, just because we're a talk show where our hosts kind of comment on current events and video clips, and they just kind of zoom in guests, they found a way where we could do it remotely. So since about beginning of April until about now, we've been doing shows remotely, which has been a real blessing. That we've been able to stay on the payroll, stay in the TV world, and keep producing new content.
That is exceptionally rare in that arena right now. Wow.
Oh, for sure.
That's awesome. As you've moved through this, and being away from home, kind of, going back home, however you phrase it,
Mm-hmm.
how have you been able to continue to connect? What does that look like for you?
Sure. Yeah. Well, it did feel weird at first because obviously I've, had my Hoboken home for the past couple of years, ever since I moved here, just my community and the people who I know all around here. But then going back to my parents, I have my life out there. Like most of my family, my extended family lives out there. A lot of friends who I grew up with. So I still got to keep in touch with all of them. But it's mostly been just like with everybody else, mostly been through Zoom, FaceTime, texts, emails, constantly checking up on people to see how they're doing, and all that. Yeah, so it's technology has been really helpful. But as things have started to open back up a little bit, I've been able to see some people like taking hikes, doing picnics in friends' backyards that are socially distanced and limiting the amount of people. So it started off kind of rough when it was in the like official quarantine stage, where it was like don't go out of the house, only go for essential things. And now it seems to be go on walks, go like hang out with people as long as it's outside, sort of thing. So as the months have gone on, it's been easier and easier to see people and keep in touch with people. But before that, it was really just with Zoom and FaceTime. And I'm really happy that with work, able to still keep in touch with people, be on a consistent schedule, and also with just church in general, with the online dinner groups and team huddles with First Impressions and Communications have been filling that hole in my heart.
Well, let me build on that. As you're going through the uncertainty of what the job situation is going to look like, as you're going through, and it's been interesting to hear from those who went back home or went to live with their parents because they said it was a blessing, and then also at times a little bit challenging. I won't have you
For
talk
sure.
about that. I won't have you talk about that live for the sake of your parents.
Oh, I
But
can. I'll just tell them not to watch.
but what is your experience of God been like through that? What does that look like as you navigate all that?
Yeah, it's kind of helped me reevaluate things in a way, not in any major way, but just in small ways where kind of uh, when things are taken away from you,
Hmm.
you kind of it's like that expression, like you don't know what you have until it's gone, sort of thing. uh, it's one of those things where I missed, just the simple act of going to the grocery store or going to like the deli to pick up a sandwich or even just like the commute into the city for work. It's, one of these things that, you kind of go through the mundane motions, but then when it's all of a sudden taken away from you, you go, oh, I kind of miss listening to a podcast and, taking the train into the city sort of thing. So, but on that note, it's been very nice just to slow down,
Hmm.
and that's really helped with my walk with God throughout this whole thing. Because for a while it was a lot of confusing questions, a lot of unanswered things like where is this going? What is life going to look like? But it's also made all the noise kind of drown out from everyday life, and sort of I was able to kind of take a moment to be quiet and sit with God and have a more consistent devotional schedule, have a more consistent like prayer times and all that. Where uh, usually in the day to day life before COVID, it was like trying to scramble to find time to do that, or even just forget for days on end.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're in the midst of this conversation, thriving in transition, and over the next little while, life is going to kind of move back to a lot of what it was before as things begin to
Hmm.
open up. And obviously, it's not going to be the same for quite a while. Um, what are the things that, as you walk through this, you're saying, man, I really don't want to lose this from the past couple months. I want to be able to further establish this as I move through this transition back into what was.
Yeah, in a weird way, it's like I almost feel like I don't want to lose relationships in a way. What I mean by that is, in a weird way, you kind of feel like when you're isolated and you're kind of taken away from people, you're not in the office, you're not in the church congregation, you're not at a friend's party, sort of thing. You kind of feel isolated and removed. Like, oh, I miss my friends, I miss my church family, my extended family. But in another way, I almost feel like I've been talking with people and keeping up with people more than I had before the quarantine happened, because
Mm.
more people are getting together, because not everybody is bogged down with their own things. Everything is kind of shut down, so we kind of fall back and lean on each other. People don't have as many events to go to or aren't traveling as often, so they have more time to just kind of be with each other, even if it is just over Zoom calls. And something that I've been doing over the past few months is just sending texts and emails to people who I maybe hadn't talked to in months or even maybe years, just to sort of check up on them and see how they're doing. Because I feel like we could all use that. We could all use people to think about us and check in, just to chat and see how we're doing. So that's been something that I've been doing consistently the past few months, and I don't want to lose that just because I go to seeing people in person. I want to build on more relationships that have maybe been lost over the years.
Yeah, I'm hearing that over and over again. The people are worried about the speed and actually worried about losing some of the connection that they've experienced during this time. I was talking to Anthony about the other day. A friend of mine. We've spent 2 hours every Sunday night for the last, I think, 8 or 9 weeks, just watching different documentaries together over Zoom, and probably spent more time together during the last few months than we did maybe even all of last year. So it is kind of unique that way.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that. I mean, my family had said it many times. I mean, we it was the first time in a while because I have two younger brothers who one just finished college this year and another one is going into his junior year of college. So there was a long period of time where all of us weren't under the same roof. Like, when we were in high school and middle school, it was, family dinners every night, more family time, spent with each other. But ever since I moved to Hoboken, my brothers moved away to college for the past few years, we really hadn't all been under one roof, like having dinner together. And now the past 3 months, that's like all we've been doing. So it's kind of nice in that way to just kind of reclaim that time that we wouldn't normally. My parents were saying we have a lot of birthdays in the family in the month of May, like my father's birthday and my mother's birthday are a week apart, or like my grandparents. And normally we wouldn't all be together for their birthdays. My brothers would be at school, I would be at work, but this time we were actually able to be all together and celebrating everybody. So it was, in that way, it was kind of a blessing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, listen, thank you so much for jumping on. Thank you for sharing a little bit of your story. And I think that what you said is true. Like we've got to be able to figure out, okay, how do we not just get back to the busyness and be able to hold on to some of those things that have become, I don't know if more important is the right word. I think have been able to rise to the priority that they deserve during this time, and have been less distracted from. So, thanks.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being with us, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.